Good evening, it's time for our news. The island's Finance Minister Vaso Shadli said he expects final negotiations with the Troika of lenders to start possibly by next week. The government and the political parties' financial teams met yet again today to discuss the government's counter-proposals to the Troika's bailout recommendation in a race against time before an important Eurogroup summit on November the 12th. Shadli also told reporters a figure had not been set for Cyprus's financial needs because of a difference of opinion between the government and lenders. There is widespread speculation Cyprus's bailout will exceed 10 billion euros. Asked by Reuters whether he expected discussions with lenders to start before the end of the month, he said, "Within the month and certainly in the coming week. Time is restricted and there is not much time left." Party representatives apart from VC said they agreed on the idea of restructuring the cost of living allowance and not scrapping it altogether. They also agreed to keep the 13th salary intact and for staggered salary and pension cuts. They also agreed that the current status of semi-government organizations should remain as it is. Government and political parties also agreed on the continued independence of cooperative banks and the scrapping of tax-free cars for state officials and lawmakers. There was broad consensus on measures for the financial sector and the compulsory submission of tax returns. The issue of extending the retirement age in the public sector to 65 remains a big sticking point, with ruling Agel strongly against the idea. Erdogan was also weary. Agel also strongly disagrees with the creation of a casino in Cyprus, something which DC and Vigo have suggested. The island's Labour Minister, Sodula Kharambu, said that there is quite a big gap between the government's proposals and those of the employers and industrialists, OEV, and the Chamber of Commerce, Gever, on the issue of the cost of living allowance. Speaking to the CYBC today, the Labour Minister said that the Labour Ministry's proposal was submitted after convergences were recorded between the three sides. But now, the Labour Minister noted, employers have put forward three new requests. Kharambu believes that this divergence of opinion concerns the philosophy behind the cost of living allowance, since employers are demanding both structural changes as well as a freeze on COLA. General Secretary of Civil Servants Union Basili Rafkos Hajibedru slammed proposals to cut salaries and pensions in return for a bailout memorandum and stressed that the economy's problems are down to the banks and not the public payroll. Speaking to the CYBC earlier in the day, he said that the problem will not be solved through such cuts. Firstly, he added, solutions must be found which will allow for the recapitalization of the island's banks. He noted that the proposed austerity cuts take the country back some 15 years. Cypriot Nobel Prize-winning economist Christoforos Pixalidis urged the Troika of lenders not to repeat the same mistakes it made with the Greek crisis here in Cyprus. Pixalidis, who was speaking in Brussels, called for an extension of the bailout adjustment period and fiscal austerity. He also stressed that by looking at the fiscal deficit estimates, investment funds and measures concerning education, infrastructure and assisting those out of work must be excluded from the programme. A 7-year-old girl from Paphos runs the risk of losing the sight in one eye after an accident during a routine visit to the dentist at Paphos General Hospital in early October. The girl suffered severe burns to her eye after caustic phosphoric acid accidentally went into her eye by the touch of a wrong button. The girl was initially taken to a hospital in Israel for treatment and later underwent surgery at a private clinic in Limassol. US presidential rivals both went on the attack in their second make-or-break televised debate. President Barack Obama knew he had to appear more energized than in the first one, while his Republican challenger Mitt Romney aimed to capitalize on his previously strong performance. This time, the 90-minute contest was far more contentious. Mitt Romney spelled out what he would do. If elected, he will get America working again and back on track to a balanced budget, reform Medicare and Social Security and get incomes up. As expected, the economy dominated, with Obama relying on improved job figures and Romney taunting him with the country's multi-trillion-dollar deficit. But while pundits analyze the answers, it's how the viewers, who are the voters, perceive their performance which counts. Predictably, both sides immediately claimed victory. A note to air travellers that tomorrow 10 flights from and to Cyprus will be affected by a 3-hour work stoppage by Greek air traffic controllers. The work stoppage begins tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. 5 departures and 5 arrival flights will be affected, in total affecting some 1,200 passengers. Out of these, 2 flights will be cancelled, with the remaining 8 flights being rescheduled. 2 Cyprus Airways flights and 3 Aegean flights from and to Cyprus will be affected. Cyprus Airways announced that its 12:25 flight from Salonika to Larnaca will now depart at 1 p.m, and its 11:30 flight from Athens to Larnaca will now take off from Athens at 1 p.m. Aegean Airlines has cancelled 2 of its flights tomorrow morning. They are flights from Athens to Larnaca and Larnaca to Athens. Meanwhile, its 8:20 morning flight from Larnaca to Athens will now depart at 8 a.m. Travellers wanting further information are advised to contact their respective airlines. Motoring news. The Snake Road at Decalia linking Larnaca and Famagusta has been reopened to traffic after having been closed in both directions for the past 3 years. The road was closed in 2009 after a team of engineers concluded that driving conditions were no longer safe, causing some disruption for local services and residents that were forced to take lengthy diversions. Repairs were conducted by local contractors with the cooperation of the Public Works Department and the Ministry of Communications. Cyprus were beaten 3-1 in a late defeat against Norway in their World Cup qualifier last night in Larnaca. Norway scored 2 goals in the final 9 minutes despite falling behind in the first half when Efstathios Aloneftis opened the scoring in the 42nd minute. Chances came and went for both sides in the second half, but it was the visitors who made their openings count. Cyprus are bottom of Group E with 3 points from 4 matches. Norway are second on 7 points, 3 behind leaders Switzerland, who face Cyprus at home next March. That was the news for this evening, and now look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Generally fine weather in store. Winds will be north to northeast, later turning northeast to northwest, and on the south coast, southwest to west, force 3 to 4 over slight seas. Temperatures are forecast to reach 33 Celsius inland, 30 on the south and east coast, 29 in the north and west, and 23 Celsius up in the mountains. The fire hazard is high in all forest areas. And just a quick reminder that later on this channel at 9 you can catch the first part of the mini-series Small Island, followed by an episode of Brothers and Sisters at 10:30 and an episode of Ghost Whisper to conclude with at 11:20. Join us again tomorrow for more news. Until then, have a very good evening.